number 4. Am I doing my math correctly? As it is now a 2-1 split. So down in the bottom left side, it is going to be Nerchio. And up in the top right side, it is going to be DarKFoRcE. And so far, out of the series you've seen so far, whether it's game 1, 2, or 3, do you have anything to say about how this has panned out so far between these two players?
I actually just feel like noting that game number 3 between most players tends to be very, very crazy in the TeamLiquid StarLeague. I mean, we saw that 6-pool rush. We saw that insane game between Bishu and Teja. Yesterday, we saw the insane game between Sase and Koka. I mean, the amount of nuttiness that occurs in game 3s just tickles my fancy. But the fact of the matter is, don't see any sort of craziness coming right out the gate yet, but has DarKFoRcE been messed with mentally? Is he going to retract and do some sort of 14-poolish type play, or is he just going to follow up with a standard early expand as we've seen him do?
And I'm just still thinking back on that last game. Kind of curious to see how that would have panned out if that attack had gone better. But I have a feeling that DarKFoRcE is going to know exactly what went wrong in that last game. He knows that, hey, I bought myself enough time. I was able to run my drones away. I knew that my opponent was only going to be mining with 1, maybe 2 drones back at home. And so, you know, that's not really a whole lot of lost mining time by any means. And unfortunately for him, right when he took the big leap, it's kind of like in mid-game TVZ, or excuse me, TVP, where if you decide to engage that army in the mid game, if you make one mistake, you just can't reinforce this Protoss. There's no way to get back into the game, and that's kind of what we saw happen in that last game. Now we do see Nerchio here got to be throwing down the extractor. Spawning pool is on the way, but DarKFoRcE going for the expand once again. And considering exactly what we saw in that last game, Mr. Day 9, what do you think about DarKFoRcE once again going for the expand first?
Well, it's kind of funny because both players have pretty much just almost made a bat signal with their build orders and shown it on the clouds throughout the series. I mean, pretty much in all the Zerg vs. Zergs I've seen Nerchio do for, gosh, a really long time, he always goes pool, gas, Zergling speed, aggression. And same with DarKFoRcE, he always goes hatch first, reasonably quick Zergling speed with some aggression. So both players, I think, are kind of doing, again, the gentleman's agreement. Oh, all right, we'll just go back to doing normal builds, nothing out of the ordinary.
And that, I think, kind of makes it more interesting in the regard that, you know, they're not doing the exact same build, first of all, and we also kind of get to see how these builds pan out across multiple games. So even if there was a mistake in one of the previous games, what can they change moving forward in their what seems to be the exact same playstyle? Usually you're going to see some minor changes. Right now we do see 6 Zerglings on the way, and is 6 Zerglings here enough to actually do any damage to the pool opening first from Nerchio?
Well, it's this thing that you kind of have to do in DarKFoRcE's position where you say, you know, I have to build 6 or 8 because if this happens, I need to have an answer. But DarKFoRcE has gone one step further than that. He doesn't just want to build 8 Zerglings as a just-in-case defense. He builds 8 Zerglings that can defend, but then, with the Zergling speed that's coming up, he can bring a little noise back to him.
And also we have seen those early-ish Baneling nests. Not the earliest that we've seen, because there's actually Baneling nests you can get with like 7 drones, and my god, those are early. Haven't seen that in a long, long time, but the defensive Baneling nest, always a viable option here, as Banelings are good for the entire duration, I wouldn't say entire duration of ZVZ, but for a very long time. You can even use them versus the Roaches, and guess what? They are being gentlemen indeed.
Yeah.
Their monocles have not popped off of their faces. They are still wearing their top hats, as they are going for pretty standard Baneling timings.
You know, the Baneling nest is just one of those so standard things that you just get, you know? It's like tanks when you're playing Terran versus Terran. I mean, sure, maybe there's some bio plays you can get away with. Maybe you'll delay it, maybe you'll rush for them, but you'll always get it. And in this matchup, the Zerglings are so scary that it's just kind of what you need. So players can occasionally do really unorthodox things, like skip it entirely, take a third base right around now, but both these players just have top-notch Overlord spotting. I mean, look, just complete vision coverage by both of them. And, ooh, oh, 6-minute layers from both of them. Ooh, my God, I'm quivering with excitement, Michael.
It's going to be awesome to see how they play this out. Of course, it does unlock the Zergling, or excuse me, the Baneling speed, also Roach speed, as well, of course, as the Spire and Infestation pits. So,
and Overlord speed.
And Overlord speed, and Overlord pooping, which you don't see utilized a lot in ZVZ, but it unlocks a lot. That's what I'm saying. And we do have double gas going down at the expansion here for Nerchio. as he did decide to go ahead and go for that. And kind of curious to see exactly if DarkFoRcE follows this up. Nope, he's just going to be getting the singular gas right now. And what do you think all this gas is for here, Day9?
Nerchio will certainly be going either Spire or Infestor, given his patterns. I would lean towards Infestor and a faster third base. DarkFoRcE is kind of tapering out how he wants to do his gas income, but DarkFoRcE is just a Spire-y kind of guy. I would be very shocked if he went for an Infestation Pit, but I'm pretty sure we will end up witnessing Infestor versus Spire play.
We are about to see the exact tech paths take place. Down goes that Spire, double Spire. Now, Day9, this is something that you don't see in ZVZ quite a lot. So, what happens when it's double Z going double Spire?
So this is very uncommon. I mean, especially Nerchio just does not go for a Spire very often. I'm real surprised to see that. I would instantly throw the favor a little bit more towards DarkFoRcE because he has more experience in this spot. But what's unusual about Spire versus Spire battles is that they were very common in the early beta days, and the answer is that you must get a couple of extra Corruptors, because Corruptors are just so outrageously good against Mutalisks. If you over-Mutalisk, then your opponent will end up tipping forward and crushing you with a slightly superior Corruptor count. So it's a very difficult thing to transition out of. The instant you stop making Mutalisks and do something else, you run the risk of dying instantly.
Now, speaking of dying instantly, Nerchio trying to get a good hit on the expansion,
Ooh,
bringing in
nice
those
play.
Banelings. Can he actually do it here? He would love to force the cancel here because he himself does not have a third base on the way. I think he is going to kill it off, will force the cancel, and it does get canceled there. So thankfully for DarkFoRcE, he did cancel that, which we've seen in the past. That might be a problem. Tries to chase down the drone, though, sacrificing almost all the lings in order to do that. But are we going to be seeing the drone throw down a hatchery right away? As any player can be so aggravating to lose an expansion, but sometimes you got to remember that you don't necessarily need every single expansion this early in the game. So it didn't work out. You don't have to go for it again. He does decide to, though. And a slight difference here, 7 mutas versus 8. But we're going to be seeing the 1 armor on the way.
Yeah, really good.
Any thoughts on that?
I mean, the 1 armor upgrade, really essential. And look at this. Look at the 1 gas being taken by Nerchio to do maybe a little bit of long-range mining. That's a cute play, but gotta start getting those Corruptors out. +1 armor, really good. Mutalisk bounce 3 times per attack, so +1 armor is actually +3 armor in Muta versus Muta battles, but both players must be knowing that Mutalisks were coming because there's no third bases very early for either player. And another counterattack. Oh, this is not going to go very well.
Baneling is trying to take out those lings, but the Muta is able to clean up everything else, and we are going to be seeing a quick Muta versus Muta battle here. Keep an eye on that units tab. It's going to be very crucial in this upcoming battle. The Mutalisk count is relatively even. The Zergling count almost even as well, and he does push this back. Nerchio realizing I do not need to take a risk here, as I myself have a third base on the way, and it looks like that extractor is no more, but instead being turned into a hatchery. But third base is on the way here for both players.
Oh.
So I'm wondering, yeah, we don't see a lot of droning right now. Just a drone here or there. So this game could still end in the next couple of minutes just based on that, where one player is not getting a huge macro lead, and the armies are starting to look very comparable.
This is tough as hell a situation to be in. Again, if both players are going Mutalisk, it's very hard to transition out of because Mutalisks and Lings are so fast. Right now, though, I still give the edge to DarkFoRcE, especially if he can get that +1 armor upgrade done. This is going to be the critical moment right here. How much damage can Nerchio do?
He needs to strike right now. The +1's almost done. He does have a Mutalisk lead. The Queen goes down. The hatchery's vulnerable. The 1 armor, he decides to engage seconds before it's done. It needs a finish every second. No!
5 more seconds.
5 seconds away, and he is going to hold for now. Does get the defender's advantage with that transfuse. The armor is now done. Is it going to be enough here, though? It looks like the Nerchio Mutalisks just are not dying.
Oh,
Spore Crawler, though, joins
down.
in. And it does look like Nerchio is going to retreat. Taking a look at the units lost, it is relatively even. Taking a look at the units, it is 8 Mutalisks to 10 right now, and there's a lot of counterattacking going on, though, down in the bottom left side.
An intense battle at the top, but DarkFoRcE has so much experience in these Ling Muta battles that he is just striking at all the weak spots, picks off the Queen in the main, and now DarkFoRcE has a tremendous advantage. The food counts don't reveal how far ahead DarkFoRcE is right now. In the unit station, we see that it is 47 workers for DarkFoRcE versus 54, but where are the queens at? It looks like there's only 1 queen remaining for Nerchio, and with that +1 armor upgrade, DarkFoRcE is immediately going to start having a big edge.
DarkFoRcE up to 5 queens now, as just needs to make sure to keep injecting the larva, which of course he is. Keeping that queen larva, the injects very, very low. as far as the energy is concerned. Plus, he's got to be able to defend versus the mutas almost endlessly with this many queens, and they definitely hold their own versus lings if the positioning is good as well. So that's just reaffirming everything Day9 is thinking, which is DarKFoRcE is in a good spot. Just needs to make sure not to lose too many Mutalisks here out in the center of the map. Needs to make sure not to be too aggressive. He is behind in the worker count quite substantially, so I think it's going to come down to these counterattacks that he keeps trying to do here in order to win, but killing off a hatchery would be huge as well.
Such good control here by DarKFoRcE. Nerchio has the drone lead, which means that Nerchio is behind on units. That's why these counterattacks are working so effectively. And is he actually just going to target fire and kill it?
He does. I think he may have killed one of his own Mutalisks there, if I saw that correctly. But regardless, his Mutalisk with a +1 armor still having a huge advantage in these battles, even able to soften up the transferring drones away. But once again, we are going to be seeing transfuses here by the defending player. Supplies are super close, but the +1 armor has paid off. He's pushed this back. Can there be any follow-up from Nerchio with no queens? He doesn't have the inject larvas. He doesn't have as many transfuses as he would like. He's only up to 2 queens right now. Every single drone that was trying to long distance mine is getting taken out here. This is absolutely huge, and he is going to be able to push even further in the lead right now.
I mean, if it's Mutaling versus Mutaling, drones are such a liability. We saw Nerchio have a 9 drone lead over DarKFoRcE, and that is 18 Zerglings that you don't have. DarKFoRcE just did 1 or 2 counterattacks, and there was virtually nothing Nerchio could do about it. And now we see Nerchio has lost 18 total drones. His lead on the economy has evaporated. DarKFoRcE continues to just Mutalisk his way forward, blast down the 2 queens. Gratz Mutawars is silly, but DarKFoRcE is the